Hey, Gaijin Guinea Pig here, and this video is about the application and interview process for Amity, which is a big chain of eikawas all around Japan. And they're owned by the Eon Company, which is a huge company that also runs eikawas. The big difference is that Amity specializes in kids classes. And yeah, I thought I would make this video to sort of give you an idea of what you can expect throughout the application interview process. It is very extensive, and I'm hoping that this will help you in some way. I don't want to make this too long, so let's just try to power through together, okay? And if you see me glancing to the side, that's because I'm referencing my notes because I'm telling you there's a lot going on here. All right. First thing you'll do is submit your application online, and you'll get an automated response telling you they'll be reviewing your application. And if it's successful, aka they're interested in you, you can expect to be contacted in under 3 weeks' time. Me personally, when I applied, I was contacted 3 days later. So I don't know if my resume just looked fantastic or they're just really desperate for teachers at that time. But your mileage may vary, but 3 weeks max. So if you do hear back from them and they are interested in you, they will set up a one-way interview. Now, the one-way interview is a system set up by a company called SparkHire, and all it is basically an automated video capture interview where you'll be prompted to answer a series of questions via your webcam or whatever your camera setup is with your computer. And you can record and re-record your answers as many times as you like, and then you submit your response. Pretty simple. The Amity team will then take a look at your responses, and they'll get back to you if they like what they see or they like what they hear. So if the video answers you submitted passes, I guess, you'll be contacted in regards to setting up a one-on-one personal interview with whomever your Amity recruiter is. This interview is broken up into two parts: a general information video and a lesson presentation, aka a lesson demo. You'll be asked to view Amity's instructional information video that they send you a link for, and it outlines what life is like at Amity as a new native English instructor, or an NET. The general information video itself, in their words, Amity describes it as a way to present more of the specific details that goes into being an NET. Basically what the responsibilities are, as well as the traits that they're looking for in a candidate. You'll be given specific contract details, salary information, etc. Then there is the all-important lesson presentation / demo. This is where you're meant to showcase your abilities as a teacher, or at the very least, your potential. Amity, like most schools, has its own teaching. I almost said teething like a baby. It has its own teaching methodology. You'll be provided with their style, as well as sample textbooks, and the drilling methodology, the target language to use. So you don't really have to stress too much about coming up with a full lesson plan on your own. They give you those resources to pull from. You fill out a provided template form / lesson plan, and you'll submit that to Amity beforehand so they can follow along with you as you're doing your demo. You'll be asked to perform a short lesson that encourages student interaction and speaking time. You can choose the age group that you want to perform your lesson to, so like if you want to do your lesson and just say focused on like that 4 to 6 year old age range or something, you can do that. And remember, it's all simulated. They're not gonna go find the kids in that age group and bring them in and really freak you out. It is recommended that you move around, use gestures a lot, those usual ESL things. As my interviews were done online, right? Because COVID and they weren't doing face-to-face interviews, everything was online. They do recommend setting up your laptop or your computer in a space that allows you to move freely. But when you're not demoing though, and you're doing your face-to-face interview, you're just going to be sitting down, looking at the camera like a video call, like we're doing right now. I would say make sure you smile a lot, and at the very least, act like you're having fun. And they really want to see ginky, right? Energy. Be really big and energetic. They love that. Now, keep in mind, while there is a lot of interviews to schedule with Amity, it is pretty flexible in regards to the availability of the dates and the times that you can choose from. So you don't have to sweat that too much. You can be like, all right, I'll just do this next week at 10 a.m. Blah blah blah. There are options. Now, along with submitting your lesson demonstration template, you'll be required to submit an updated copy of your resume, along with a 500 plus word essay on why you want to teach English to children in Japan. This should be pretty easy for you, especially if your heart is in the right place. I mean, I obviously don't advise anyone saying, like, oh, I want to go to Japan because it's so cool and I'm just looking for a way to get there. Blah, blah, blah. Obviously, be honest. Let it come from the heart. Amity, they use like a Dropbox style system where you'll get an email and there'll be a link in there. You'll click on the link and you'll just sort of drag and drop the files. It's really easy to submit stuff to them. And then now that you've finished your first interview and your lesson presentation, you'll be contacted in regards to professional references. You'll be asked to submit 2 to 4 professional work references, drag and drop into their little Dropbox system. You'll also be asked to set up your second interview. It will be at least 90 minutes. You heard me correctly. And it will be more of a getting to know you, getting to know Amity sort of casual talk, as well as you having to give a second lesson demo. But don't panic too much because it's essentially the same demo you gave before. After you do the demo the first time, you're given feedback and you're asked to make certain changes or not, or like maybe no changes if you just really killed it, but you can almost expect to get some feedback and some changes will have to be made to revise it. And you're expected to do that revised version of your demo the second time around. And yes, you will need to submit a revised second lesson plan before that interview takes place. Now, if you're still in the running at this point, you'll be given 2 hiring packets, A and B. They consist of more documentation that you're asked to fill out and submit, a contract, advertising agreement, visa information, copy of passport, policy manuals, apartment agreement, resume, proof of graduation, essay, passport photos, etc. There'll also be information on overtime and paid days off. Here's the funny thing. Throughout this whole process, and we've covered a lot so far, you're still not told whether or not you're hired. Yes. There has been no official offer made. You are simply doing all these steps to see if you're just eligible to have the offer extended to you. If your background check and references come back clean and full of praise, then you most certainly will be extended an offer, and that takes place on, yes, another video call with your recruiter. The position offer video call. Make sure you have as many questions that you need answered, prepared, and ready for this call. The offer itself will be conditional, as you will still have to show specific steps were taken in getting you to Japan. Due to the pandemic, they will need you to take your temperature every day for 14 days leading up to your departure. You'll have to show proof that you've researched your pre-entry PCR test location, as well as the cost of it. But they will offset some of the cost for you, which is nice. And you'll have to show that you've mapped out your flight itinerary and how that will relate to arriving in Japan within that 72-hour window. I know, it's a lot of crap to deal with. Your flight has to have Okayama as its final destination. You'll also need a certificate of negative test result from the governing body that took your PCR test. It has to be an official government-recognized document. You'll also be asked to download the official Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare in Japan COVID app on your phone. You will need to get health insurance to cover you for your first 7 to 10 days in Japan, assuming that a quarantine is still in place by the time you see this or by the time you get hired and you're sent over there. I mean, these rules can kind of change as the nature of COVID in the world changes and how nations deal with it. I think personally, the health insurance thing is something that the school is doing more so than what the government's asking you to do. And I think it's sort of the school's way of saying, hey, the last thing you need to worry about is our candidates, our teachers. We have them covered and then some. Don't worry, we got it taken care of. Of course, you'll also need to have around the equivalent of $1,500 to $2,000 US, and that is basically to survive off of for the first month while you're there, because you get paid monthly in Japan and you need to survive for that first month until you get your first payday. One thing I will say about Amity is that they really do emphasize how big of a change this is in your life. And they continuously check in with you to see how you are feeling mentally and emotionally. And just sort of asking, are you really ready for all this? Like, this is a big deal. I think some people get caught up in the excitement of what they're going to be doing, and they don't realize the weight of it until maybe it's too late, and then they feel so overwhelmed. You'll then be provided with an official contract of employment to sign and send back to them. You'll also be sent pre-training materials as well as quizzes, 3 of them to be exact, to complete. Basically, the quizzes prove that you have reviewed and looked through the pre-training materials that they sent you. It is very thorough, and no one can say that Amity is not thorough. Of course, then you'll be sent your COE, which is the certificate of eligibility, and you need that to either go to your closest Japanese embassy or mail it to whatever, embassy is assigned to you, and they'll get you your work visa so that you can work in Japan. Once your COE is in your hands and you're ready to get your work visa, you'll also have one last video call set up. It's a check-in video call is what they call it. Basically a call to touch base with you and see how everything is going in your preparations, any last-minute questions you may have. This is just a side note, but in regards to Amity's dress code, it is very formal. It is like pantsuits for females and straight-up suits for guys. Bold colors are discouraged. Keep those colors dull and muted and very formal. Color is not your friend, especially bold, bright colors. At this point, okay, you'll be given a departure timeline as well as your placement. Finally, right? That is like the ultimate thing that you're sort of waiting for after all these trials and tribulations in the process, the placement. Now, if you're still with me this far, this is where I ended my journey with Amity. I had very specific parameters in regards to where I wanted to be placed, and I let them know that before this whole process started, but those parameters just weren't met, basically. It was pretty simple. I mean, simple as that. It was no drama. I just went my separate ways with Amity, no hard feelings, right? If I were younger and I was a college graduate, and I think I would be open to pretty much any placement, but I'm an older dude and I had a very specific thing in mind that I was trying to go for. If I could give you any advice, I would just say be as flexible to your placement as possible, because you will be looked at favorably if you are. They love that. You will get fast-tracked to Japan. It's like the best thing you can do. For me, it was like they gave me a placement that I didn't like. I told them I didn't like it. They sent me one more placement. I told them this sucks too. And they were like, all right, well, this is as far as we can go. But feel free to apply again in 6 months. I don't know that I will, because this could always happen again, right? I do not want to discourage you from applying as long as you're open and flexible to any placement. I just wasn't open and flexible with my placement, but I knew that going in, so I knew that was a very real, thing that could happen, and it did. So, what are my overall thoughts on the experience? I had never been through an application process as grueling as the one with Amity. Like it was like a gauntlet. It just felt like it would never end. That being said though, even though it was like super daunting at times, it was nowhere near as bad as I thought it could be, or I sort of made it out to be. Like once that ball's rolling, it just goes and goes, and you're just taking care of business, right? The recruiters, they were all super nice. The lines of communication were always open. If you emailed them or tried to get a hold of them to get more info, they would get back to you right away. I mean, I get why Amity is so thorough in their process, right? Like, this is a real job. This isn't a vacation that you're going to Japan for to just sit on your butt and relax. And there's a lot of moving parts that are in play to make this work. And they're not really interested in people that are going to be fickle or take it lightly. They want dedicated teachers. And if you're not willing to jump through those hoops, then you're not really what they're looking for. I mean, this process is essentially testing your character and your overall commitment to everything. I obviously can't speak on actually working for Amity, but I do respect their thorough application and interview process. And I do hope that this gives you some understanding as to what you can expect, at least in this age of COVID. Who knows? You might be doing face-to-face interviews by the time you see this, but I do have to believe that some of the stuff that I've talked about in this video will still pertain. It will just sort of convert over to a face-to-face situation. I hope you found this video helpful. If you are thinking of applying to Amity or you already have, I do wish you the best of luck. I think it's an exciting journey that you're on. But let me know what you thought of this video and whether or not it helped you at all, and if you'd like me to make more videos like this in the future, because I actually have various experiences that I could talk about. So yeah, give this video a like, think about subscribing, and check out some of the other videos on my channel. You might find something else that gets your interest. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.